Language and communication in general are complicated. Even though I tend to be a very chatty person, I tend to forget that only 40% of communication is verbal. You're probably wondering what I'm talking about. Well, verbal communication takes up 40%, whereas the other 60 is taken up through the communication through the use of body language. For those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about, I'll fill you in. Body language is the process of communicating non-verbally through conscious or unconscious gestures and movements. This can be associated with any type of movement you make, and if somebody were to see this, they can actually decipher how you're feeling depending on what you're moving. This is why today I will be talking about history of how body language came to be, seeing different body language to determine how somebody feels, and why is this beneficial to you. So let's turn back a page in our history book and go straight into history of how body language came to be. Body language has been around since the beginning of evolution. Catherine Hayes stated that gestures, movements, facial expressions can all be perceived through information on to another how they feel in that moment and how they feel with the person they're with. Yep. Later in evolution, we started using our hands more. For example, mimes. They used their bodies and their hands to entertain us through stories, and we understood it most of the time. In the 18th and 19th century, ladies of France often used their fans to communicate how they were feeling and with nonverbal gestures. For example, they would take their fan and they would tap it on their right cheek to say yes to a question, or they would tap it to their right or to say no. We've forgotten how to understand others' body language based on how they move. Okay, let me start that. We've forgotten how to understand others' feelings based on how we move or react with our bodies. Well, let's not let this forgotten bit of information be forever overlooked and understand a few key points with body language. Yeah, I forgot that. Yep, it's fine. Fairmount College has helped me understand body language more than I did before. They helped me by showing me 8 key things to help understand body language. And to give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about, I'm going to be having my lovely assistant, Sydney, come up here. So let's give her a round of applause for helping me out for this. Number 1, study the eyes. Everybody always says the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, they're not entirely wrong. Where a person is looking can determine how they feel in that moment. If they're looking away, it can mean they're bored, disinterested, or even deception. Looking down can indicate they're nervous, and even the rate at which a person blinks can tell you internally how somebody is feeling. If they're blinking slow, this means they're interested in what you're saying and what you're communicating in words. Whereas when they blink fast, it means that they're not interested at all. 2, look at the face. Yes, facial expressions are a given. However, have you ever looked at at which a person shows their mouth? For example, a fake smile and a real smile. A real smile uses their whole entire face and it indicates happiness, whereas the other, they only use their mouth and leave the eyes alone. Okay. 3, pay attention to proximity. What I mean is how close you are to another person. If a person is close to you, this indicates that they want to create a closer bond to that person and they want to share a mutual connection. In a romantic relationship, this close proximity is actually a good indication. Being close to them actually shows that they want to share that general connection, or they have a desire to have that connection. 4, see if the other person is mirroring you. Mirroring is when a person unconsciously gestures, movements, and facial expressions or speaking patterns. And this is a good sign in any relationship that there's an honest and mutual connection. In a romantic relationship, however, it's also a good sign as well. If a person in a romantic relationship is leaning away from somebody, this means that the person doesn't want that connection. Whereas if they are leaning towards each other with their body movement, this indicates that they're completely infatuated with each other. 5. Observe the head movement. Did you know that a speed at which a person nods their head actually can tell you how they're feeling? Like, okay, if a person is nodding slowly, that means they're interested. They want to hear more about this conversation. Now, if they're speeding fast, in simple terms, it basically means shut up, stop talking. Now, if a person tilts their head to the side ever so slightly, it means they're interested. They want to hear what you're talking about. Whereas backwards can be a sign of uncertainty or dishonesty. 6. Look at the person's feet. The feet are the most important nonverbal cues, because they tell you, because most of the time people aren't actually focusing on their feet. They're more worried about their facial expressions. So the position at which a person's feet are positioned are normally in the direction they want to go. 7. Watch for hand signals. Are their hands in their pockets? Are they on their head? This can be a sign of disinterest or nervous or deception. If yep. Okay. Now, in unconscious pointing gesturing, this normally means the person is pointing to the person they are closest to in the room. And yep. Okay. Arms. Now, examine the position of their arms. Think of your arms as a doorway to your body and yourself. If a person's arms are crossed, this normally means they're feeling anxiety, they're vulnerable, or even closed-minded. If a person tends to have their hand right here and they're resting their elbow on something, this normally means they're interested in what you're talking about or just interested in what you're doing in general. If they have both and they put both hands on their face and they put their elbows on something, this just means they're bored in general. These few 8 key things will help you understand how a person is feeling within the moment. Thank you, Sydney. Okay. Knowing these few key things will help you understand how another person is feeling. Not only another person is feeling, whether you choose to see it or realize you're seeing it. Hospitality Insights says that knowing body language is beneficial because being able to understand and interpret body language helps you understand those unconscious issues or negative feelings another person is having. This is also beneficial due to the fact that people lie. Our bodies, we normally we move them and we're not very conscious of it. Whereas when we speak, we know exactly what we're going to say and it can't always be truthful. Apart from that, it's also, and knowing body language is also beneficial because it enhances our conscious understanding of how other people's reactions are to us, what we say, how we act, how we move. So the next, I missed all that. That's fine. So the next time you're sitting down chatting with somebody and you remember what I was talking about today. The history of how body language came to be, determining different body language movements that determine how somebody feels, and why this is beneficial. The best thing I can tell you today to leave you with is body language speaks much more consciously and honestly than mere spoken words. Dixie Waters. And to wrap it up for you today, I hope you can truly appreciate how and understand body language. Thank you. I thought that was fun.